You're still on to the Afia Business Morning, and you're welcome back to Opening Bell. This, of course, is still channel 254 on DSTV, 17 on Go TV, 748 on Free TV. I am Nnamdi Obanya. Having an oil block in Nigeria means only one thing: the president knows you. This is why many dormant oil fields litter the oil-producing zones of the world's 10th largest player. Now that President Tinubu wants the fields reactivated, can we expect a scramble for the oil blocks whose owners do not use them? Let's get into it. Just yesterday, I was talking about the NNPCL, and I mentioned how, not a drop of crude could be extracted, not a drop of PMS, AGO, DPQ, or a gram of LPG could be sold without its involvement. Because from joint ventures or exploration to the ownership of refineries to marketing, oversight, regulation, and participation, NNPC is everywhere. Sadly, we are not the better for it, but that's the whole other topic for a whole other day. But it is a necessary point, and that is because despite having the 10th or 11th largest reserve of crude oil in the world, depending on who you ask, and having the 10th largest production output, Nigeria is still one of the poorest countries in the world. And that is because every point on our oil and gas value chain is a beehive of corruption-related activity. Our system has more leakages than the rusted pipe that has been riddled with bullets from a high-caliber machine gun. From exploration to refining, or lack of, to shipping, to delivering, to retailing, corruption is everywhere. So much so that every time an announcement is made, you begin to look for the loopholes the government wants to exploit. So imagine how I shot out of my chair when I heard that President Bola Tinubu has directed all holders of dormant oil assets across Nigeria to immediately reactivate them to, in his own words, boost the country's dwindling crude oil production and revenue. Now, this directive was announced by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Heineken Lokbobiri, during the 2025 Nigeria Oil and Gas Energy Week in Abuja. Now, the reason for this is that the federal government wants to increase crude oil production by to 2.1 million barrels per day and generate approximately 84.67 trillion naira in crude oil revenue. And this, of course, is based on oil price of $75 per barrel. Now, on paper, this is a very good initiative, very laudable, and should be appreciated. Why? Because we have been struggling to meet our production targets, with output currently hovering around 1.4 million barrels per day, even though production climbed to 1.63 million barrels per day in May from 1.61 million barrels per day in April. The reason I sound a note of caution is because I remember not too long ago when we struggled to hit 1 million barrels per day at a time when the price of oil was sky high. Nigeria is not a normal place, so you will have to forgive my underlying pessimism. Now, while he was speaking, the minister also emphasized that reactivating dormant oil assets will not only lead to growth in the oil sector, but also sustain investments in capacity building. And he stressed that the government is determined to maximize oil production by ensuring that only serious investors retain access to Nigeria's hydrocarbon resources. Remember that part. He then urged all gas operators to ensure every asset under their control is active and productive, treating the president's directive with urgency and gravity. He also called on stakeholders to adopt a new mindset that is value-driven and innovation-led to drive growth in the industry. Now, the government is saying that this move aims to end the era of speculative licensing, where companies acquire oil blocks but fail to develop them. Now, by reactivating dormant fields, Nigeria hopes to bridge its production shortfall and meet both domestic energy needs and international commitments. Recent wave of asset divestments, subsequent increase in production volumes, highlights what they say is the potential for indigenous capacity to growth in the industry. Overall, the reactivation of dormant oil fields should be a strategic move to boost Nigeria's crude oil production, increase revenue, and drive growth in the oil and gas sector. But wait first. Do you think people are going to listen? Do you think people who spent millions and billions of dollars to acquire oil blocks but don't develop them do not know what they are doing? Of course they do, which is why I'm predicting the mayhem that will follow and lead to an almighty scramble for oil blocks by political cronies and the almighty stakeholders. Now, this is a bit of a conspiracy theory, so walk with me. Now that President Tinubu has ordered all oil block owners to start making sure they are producing, there's going to be some resistance, and for many reasons. Firstly, many were acquired not through bidding or outright tender and purchase, but by virtue of a reward from the president for loyalty to the party or to the president himself. Another reason is the fact that many people have used these blocks to collect ridiculous loans from banks to expand their activities on the oil and gas value chain to as far as retail, so they could be beneficiaries of the subsidy scam. Some took the loans and went into real estate, while some others put it in fixed deposits or bought dollars and kept it in their bedrooms. All this means is that at some point, a special economic task force will be set up, headed by Mr. President, with the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, possibly the Minister of Finance, members of the House and Senate committees on oil and gas, some industry experts, and of course, the statutory stakeholders. The committee will be charged with finding a way to revive non-performing and dormant oil blocks. Now, the banks do not have the financial muscle, liquidity, or expertise to engage in oil exploration alone, and the beneficiaries of the loans are either dead abroad or lodged safely in the armpits of the political estate. Those who took but cannot afford to produce are also in a conundrum. All of a sudden, oil companies from China, Russia, and the USA will show up ready to pounce. For those who do not take the exploitative offers given to them by these foreign companies, they may lose their blocks via a midnight sitting law, just like the one that changed the national anthem, and may be left licking their wounds. However, in true Nigerian fashion, rather than find the right people to make sure we optimize these oil blocks and ramp up production, a fresh scramble for blocks will begin, with many stakeholders who feel they were not properly rewarded for helping the government in power get into office. They will form the first line of these potential block awardees. A new oil and gas class will be created with its members completely loyal to the president. Of course, this is all a conspiracy theory, and I'll leave it at that.